So I think I've dealt with all the various immigration stati that are relevant to a foreign national that is coming to spend time in Hong Kong, so I'm happy to answer your questions.
For the business investment visa, what standards are there for resources?
It all depends. It all depends. Do you want to say a little bit about your business and I can, or intentions?
It's just a general question.
Yeah. No, I mean, really, it's about have you got contracts? Have you got work in progress? Have you got confirmed business? Have you got in play sufficient evidence to the immigration department that this business is not going to fail at the first hurdle? That you've got enough in play that it's sustainable and that it will go on to become a solidly entrenched commercial enterprise. And what passes muster obviously depends on the exact circumstances of a particular application. Yeah, but as I always couch it, it's the stuff that's existing in your business that's giving you the confidence to put the money into it in the first place because you think you'll be successful with it. Yeah, perhaps add a little bit more light on, shed a little bit more light on that. Let's say that you've already developed a product. You've got your MVP and now you're ready to go. And that would be a resource, a key resource that the immigration department would say, okay, right, we see what this is all about now they're commercializing it, they're taking it to market.
So it's not necessarily like the amount of money that you have in a bank account or anything like that?
No, I mean, money's important because you need to be able to show you can finance the business, but it's not enough just to have the money, you've got to be investing it. Yeah, you've got to be spending it. Yeah.
How will the immigration office consider this course? I mean, it's non-formal, it's non-accredited. What value do they see, or do they see a particular value in this military?
Well, it adds weight, right? Because clearly, if you've spent 3 months learning how to code, you've invested into it, and it's a clear indication of the next phase in your career. So it's not a negative at all. It's a positive, but it's certainly not the same as saying, well, I've got a degree and I've got 2 years post-graduation working experience in managerial or supervisory capacity. Yeah.
And then how do they compare a degree versus experience in the field? For instance, I have some 10 years within technology, but I don't have a degree.
So you're fine, you're home and hosed. Yeah.
Even though it's not specifically in development, it's all been within the technology field.
You would, but the way you position it is you'd say, right, I've got this 10 years. Technology moves fast. I've got this grounding. I understand, the way the world works in the space that I'm in, and as a result of that, I've upgraded my skills by doing this course. And my next move is reflected in this application. And because the graduate, but you've got 10 years of related experience, the immigration department will take that on board positively.
Cool.
Yeah.
Is the government willing to give more visa in some industries compared to some other industries?
No, there's no quota, there's no sector specificity. They look at every application on its own merits. Every application on its own merits. Yeah. So there is quota in the Quality Migrant Admission Scheme program, but that's it, nowhere else. So we want to have a kind of a flexible, it's a general employment policy. We want to be able to anticipate on a moment-by-moment basis the needs of employers in Hong Kong and the skill set of the foreign nationals that are seeking to be deployed in Hong Kong by those Hong Kong employers. So there's a great deal of flexibility, which I think is the best part about immigration. It means that 95% of what goes on is opaque, but to the extent that the immigration department operate within policy constructs that they lay down themselves, they get it right the vast majority of the time. Sometimes they get it wrong, but the vast majority of the time they get it right. Yeah.
In terms of if your visa does happen to be denied, and you don't go through the appeal, is your name on record?
Well, you'll have a file. The immigration department will know about you. You'll have a set of representations that have been made about you in the past, and that clearly forms the foundation of any future applications that you make. But if you get denied, it doesn't automatically follow that now you're blacklisted. if you've conducted yourself properly and the Immigration Department have assessed the application and said no, then that's what that is. And so it doesn't have to be a negative thing. But it's better not to be denied, clearly, because if you have one denial and then another, the way the Immigration Department perceive it is, well, they've only got so many resources, and how many times can this foreign national come at our resources, costing them nothing, to the point where we get a bit fed up with it by now. You know, there comes a point where you're simply not going to get approved. So you've got to have the right job offer, and you've got to have the right background, and you've got a strong sense of a good likelihood of a positive approval, and you can go into it with a certain amount of confidence. And if you've got that in play and it gets refused, it won't work against you. But one of the things that used to happen under Section 53 of the Immigration Ordinance, this was in the late 1990s, and primarily it was our cousins from the subcontinent that would come to Hong Kong. They'd have a 2-week limit of stay as a visitor, have no background whatsoever to anticipate an approval for an employment visa, but they would make an application for an employment visa. They'd be allowed to remain in Hong Kong because the Immigration Department used to extend the visitor visas whilst the application to adjust your status was ongoing. So they remain in Hong Kong under that process. Then when they got denied, they'd go through the reconsideration exercise. And then when they got denied after reconsideration, they go to Section 53 of the Immigration Ordinance, knowing that it was going to take some time for that process to play its way through. And while this was happening, the Immigration Department used to extend the visitor visas all throughout this time. So there became this mini industry of consultants that were giving advice to, certain nationalities that were coming to Hong Kong to cynically abuse process and effectively were working illegally while all this was playing itself out. So it used to be, I think, under Section 53, it was a 2.5-year time frame for the finalisation of that exercise. And at a stroke, I think it was in '98, the Immigration Department overnight said, right, that's it. If you've got a Section 53 application and we're no longer extending your visitor visa, you have to return to your home country and await the outcome of the application there. And that then basically reduced the numbers down to, the few small numbers that I think that get submitted each year, and so that problem went away.
And just on visitors visas, just in general, is there any limit to how many times you can actually visit Hong Kong?
Well, every time you present yourself at the border as a visitor, you have to demonstrate your bona fides as a visitor. And what this means is that the immigration officer who is assessing you, he's empowered, fully empowered by law, to admit or refuse you. And he needs to be satisfied that you're a bona fide visitor. And every time you present yourself, it's a separate examination. There are algorithms that work in border control that allow an immigration officer to be guided by a particular applicant as to how much time they've spent here. And normally when you get to more than 180 days in a 12-month given period, it normally alerts the officer to the potential for an investigation as to what really is keeping this person here as long as they have been here. And then they look at the number of ins and outs, and then they make a decision, well, okay, how old is he, what does he present like, or what does she present like, and then they'll ask you a question or two, and then they'll admit you if you're satisfied. But over time, you get to a point where the immigration officer could immediately say to you, without warning, tell me all about what you're doing, let's go into this room. And then at that point, the balloon goes up, potentially. And it's not a pleasant experience. The Immigration Department are great, right? I mean, you go to the Immigration Tower, customer service focused organisation, they give you information that you need, whatever is fantastic. But, they are the frontline security. And at the border or at the airport, if you get called into a little room, they're going to be respectful to you, but they're going to be very, very hard on you. And they're going to find out what's keeping you here. So it's not a pleasant experience, one to be avoided. So no, you can't engage in what I call the Shenzhen shuttle ad infinitum. There will come a point in the game where you need to assess your rationale for being here and determine whether or not visitor status is suitable in your circumstances. But in the final analysis, it's that examination of the officer and is he satisfied as to your bona fides and what it is that you can say to explain why you're spending as much time here as you are.
would seeking employment be a valid reason for being here that long?
Well, it's permitted activity, but it's not recommended that you satisfy your bona fides by
Right.
telling an immigration officer that you're coming here to look for work.
So I could tell them I'm taking this course, and then, because I would be coming up to 180 days on my next entry.
Just be honest.
Yeah.
Just be honest. Yeah, that's
Would that
right.
be cool about that?
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, right? Yeah. Okay, I hope I've been able to help you in some small way today. If you have any questions, give me a call or go onto the website. Everything you need is there. Thanks a lot.